Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so good to be here with you. I'm here with Silvana Espinoza Lau, and Silvana is here in Oregon, which is really exciting for me to have somebody pretty local. And I'm just looking forward to this conversation, to getting to know you, and for everybody here to get to learn from you and our conversation. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Shelby. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, Silvana is an embodied liberation and decolonization consultant and coach for therapists, healers, and providers. Silvana coaches therapists and healers who want to incorporate decolonized, liberation focused, and anti oppressive values in their practices in an embodied way, and consults with mental health agencies that want to center therapy seekers with minoritized identities. She also consults with mental health agencies on how to incorporate decolonial mental health practices. Silvana is an LMFT, a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice in unceded Kalapuya territory in Oregon, and a clinical supervisor and consultant to both licensed and pre-licensed clinicians with a focus on anti-oppressive and decolonized therapy practice. Thank you for the really important work that you do. Do you want to say any more? Is there anything I missed there?
Hmm. I don't think so. I think that's the gist of it. Of course, I could add so many more things that I also do and hobbies and whatnot. But I think that to begin with, that's a good introduction.
Beautiful. Tell me what inspired you or inspires you to do the work that you do? If you have a personal story or professional, get as vulnerable as you like or not so much.
I have both. I think that I have something that inspires me on a day-to-day basis and something that motivates me. Both. I think it's both um, historical, but it's also present. I think that what motivated me to do this work is my own experience within the mental health and wellness realm. Um, Even before moving to the US, I grew up in a very westernized country. So the way that mental health and the way that healing works is very much about, what's the outcome. It's not so much about the relationship. It's about what diagnosis you have and what's the prescription that they give you so that you feel quote unquote better. And I think that the cherry on top was coming here to the US and also experiencing this extra layer of racism, another form of marginalization, and seeing how healing looks different for people who have more privileged identities. Let's say people in white bodies, in thin bodies, in healthier bodies, or people who can communicate verbally in ways that sometimes neurodivergent people can't, and seeing how healing for them is different than for people that don't have those identities. So seeing how that affected me, and then going through grad school and also experiencing or having a different experience than my white, able-bodied, healthy peers is what motivated me to do this work of, hold on a second. I don't think that mental health and healing is only about the things that we learn in grad school. I think that there's way more than this. And I think that there's a personal story that I have forgotten, right? The one from my ancestors. And I think that we have also forgotten the stories of our own ancestors and how healing happened in our communities. So that is what motivated me to do this work. What inspires me to do this work on a day-to-day basis is, of course, my loved ones, and I extend that to my community, the people that I know and the people that I don't know, because I do want our communities to do better, to feel better, to really feel into their feelings, to really feel like they are doing well, and when they are not doing well, to really, lean into that dark shadow, whatever, and into all the parts. And I think that that's what's missing from the mental health, from the in the wellness field. So that is what inspires me to continue doing this work.
Mm. I had full body goosebumps as you talked about the stories that had been forgotten
Yeah.
and that being part of the motivation and just feel the depth of how important that is.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very important. I think I'm still discovering that for myself, but part of the work that I am doing is to help people or encourage them to also discover those stories. And if they are aware of those stories, to not just have those stories as memories intellectually in their heads, but I would like for those providers, for those therapists and healers to embody those stories again so that they can help their own clients heal in different ways, in more wholesome ways.
Yeah. And a big emphasis here on embodiment.
Oh,
How
yes.
how are we not coming from an intellectual place and a place of knowing? Because so many of us have some education, some awareness, some
Yes.
training, probably not
Yes.
enough, but then bringing it into our lived embodied experience, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think that we, assuming that you and I, and assuming that your listeners, come mostly from Western cultures or from Westernized cultures, and but that by that I mean cultures where intellect is prioritized, right? Going to school, learning to discern, to know, to memorize, and the data and the facts and the research. I think that there's an important place for that, but that is not everything. Because then we forget, and what is my body telling me? And what is my intuition? What is that gut feeling that I'm having that is so equally important? And there's so much wisdom in that, and so much wisdom in, I believe in what's in my genes, the stories that come from previous generations and that tend to be forgotten. So that's why to me it's very important. Okay, I know these things intellectually, but how am I bringing them to my body and how am I teaching my clients to do that as well? Without
Mm.
that fear of it's so uncomfortable to feel something in my body, right? Or what do I do with this professionally so that I still look good,
Yeah.
providing a service. Yeah,
Yeah. Perform, perfect, look a
exactly.
certain way.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the basics. For those who are maybe just beginning to learn about decolonization, how might you describe it to them? And describe it through the lens of your body of work, your view.
Yeah. Yes, 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 of course, of course. I like to begin describing the idea of decolonization with what we learn. Again, I am going to begin by using the intellect that we all are familiar with, right? So I believe that most of us learn in school the idea of colonization, right? A bunch of people came, and they came with their beliefs systems, with their religion, with their ways of relating, ways of doing, of educating, and they imposed those things in a different territory, and they took that territory, and there was a lot of harm, and there was a lot of loss when they did that. When I moved from one territory to a different one and I just claim it for myself and I just impose everything that I know, and I don't care about who was in that territory, who the territory belongs to, and what were the beliefs, the ways of relating, of doing, spirituality and everything else. um, there's so much grief and there's so much loss there. So to me, the idea of decolonizing is not to undo that, because there is no way that we can undo what happened, centuries ago. But to me, the idea is, how do we mend all those harms? How do we mend all those wounds? And what can I do in the present to unlearn all the things, all the ways, all the habits that I have that I don't know are colonized, but I continue learning that are colonized and that are somehow harming me and harming others, right? The way that I am learning, the way that I'm relating to others, the way that I am helping people heal, the way that I tend to my house, the way that I'm in relationship with my children. I don't know, all the ways. Like, in what ways I may be holding on to some colonial beliefs, and in what ways can I do this differently? Like, can I question myself in a healthy way to do things better tomorrow, to do things better in a week, in a month, in a year from now, right? And how can I hold within me and be witness to that grief of letting go of harm and possibly shame or guilt of knowing that I have inadvertently, but still harm or hurt others or myself, and continue moving on towards action, right? So to me, that's the idea of decolonizing, is stopping, questioning what we're doing, see what are the oppressive ways within the things that we're doing so that we can stop doing those, or we can learn a different way, a way that is more healing and that is more communal and that is helping me and that is helping others as well.
Mm,
Yeah.
helping me and helping others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
One of my, a participant in one of my programs recently had talked about how am I being a good ancestor
Mhm.
for future generations? And as you're talking, it reminds me of that, of how do I step into my life in this present moment in a way that doesn't continue things that our ancestors had to experience and endure, that we might be able to bring a little bit of a change and a difference.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I think that again, I am very aware that there are cultures that are more individualistic and cultures that are more collective. And I do believe that within those differences, there's a very harmful individualism that is completely different from a healthy individualism, from individuating, right? And I think it's so harmful when I am not thinking of the other, even if I don't know them personally, right? When I am not thinking of the previous generation or the next generation, because I am connected to all of those, to, in different degrees. I may be more connected to my family, obviously, but in some ways I am connected to my neighbors. I am connected to you, to your listener, to all of the things. So, in that respect, I do believe that it's very important that when I am healing, I am thinking not only of myself, but I am thinking of my community as well. And maybe this is more geared towards the therapists within your listeners or the healers, because we do learn that, it's selfish to think about ourselves or to disclose things about ourselves. But I think it's so important to think about ourselves so that we can be better therapists or healers for our clients.
Yeah.
And that to me feels very communal and very decolonial as well.
Hmm. Well, it's a perfect lead into talking about what we weren't taught in grad school or in our certification program. So many of
Yeah.
us were required to take maybe a cultural competency course and
Yeah.
maybe a continuing education course every 2 years. That is like the most basic disconnected thing ever. And
Yeah.
so I'm wondering if you might be able to share a bit about, what we could wake up to and
Yeah.
what we weren't taught.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah, I mean, and there are so many courses out there, right? Whether it's for clinicians, therapists who need the CUs, the continuing education, or just because you want to grow professionally. And yes, you will find lots of programs and lots of courses, and several of them are really good. My It's not my problem, my challenge, my concern. My concern is that inadvertently we may be misunderstanding the purpose of those courses, or some of us may be shielding behind those courses, right? The fact that I took a class doesn't mean that I know everything, because there is nothing that we can know intellectually that will ever be compared to lived experience, right? So I personally have a lot of, like, this is a perfect example. I have a big problem with the certifications, like, for instance, the ADHD neurodivergent certification. I don't remember the exact name, but how can I become certified in something that is not my lived experience?
Mm.
That to me feels very problematic. Um, yeah, that's the first thing that I can think of. So does it help me know more about other people with different experiences? Yes. So I can take a CU or a continuing education or some program on, I don't know, microaggressions, on racial stress, on helping neurodivergent clients, on, I don't know, body positivity, you name it. And I have to still be very aware that that is just a course that is giving me more intellectual knowledge and more data, but that is not going to replace how I am going to be in relationship with my client or with the person that I am providing a service with. And that will never replace the lived experience that my client has. Um, and that doesn't help me have any lived experience that I just don't have, right? That's just more intellectual knowledge that I am gathering. So while that is important to me, it's equally important to work on the connection that I am establishing with my clients. Um, Not just the rapport that some of us learn in grad school, but the actual connection and the being in relationship with that person that is in front of me.
Mm.
Um, that to me is very important. Um, yeah. Other things that we may have not learned. I mean, our education is very Western and is very white, and it doesn't center everybody. So I think that I could spend hours, listing all the things that we didn't learn in
Yeah.
either in grad school and in our certification programs. Um, yeah.
Mm. So as we are learning things we might not have learned because we couldn't
Mhm.
have.
Exactly.
For example, with connection, if we're not aware of how to build connection in a way that is centering or that is from a more decolonialized approach, how might we be doing that?
Exactly. Exactly. I think that if we don't bring up connection, or if we are not aware of working on an embodied connection with the client, with the people that we're providing a service with, we run the risk of providing a service that is very intellectual and that is very transactional, and that is actually not healing to that person. Whether you are a therapist, whether you are a coach, whether you are a service provider. And I think that our clients notice when we are just engaging in a transaction, and they notice when we are actually invested in
Mm.
building a relationship with them. And maybe this is subconscious, maybe they are not, some people are not completely aware, but I think that it's way more healing when we are invested in building an actual connection with the people that we are helping in any capacity.
Yeah.
um yeah.
And I'm imagining that that might look like an example could be coming in as, we're already in a power dynamic. We're being paid for our
Yes.
expertise
Yes.
and sitting with someone kind of from a more intellectual place of like, what are the symptoms? What's wrong? What's the issue? How might I fix that? What kind of advice can I give instead of a more connected, embodied, collaborative spirit of curiosity,
Mhm. Mhm.
leaning in together. What might we tend to together here instead of I'm the expert, we're going to fix this because there's a problem here. Something that's just one example
Exactly.
of the many.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. That's one of many examples, right? If we're talking about any therapist or any healer, right? The idea of let's get you from point A to point B, and what is that going to take us? Do you need a treatment plan? What are the behaviors that you want to change, or what are the beliefs that you want to change? Then let's work on that through these goals or this treatment. And when we're doing that, to me, that's like a band-aid approach to healing, right? Because on the surface that feels good. Okay, I need to, I don't know, I need to journal so that I get more in touch with my feelings, or I need to practice, um talking to two friends every day so that I become a more assertive person, in 3 months from now or 4 months from now. So even though that can be useful, that is not focusing on the connection with the individual, and that is not focusing on the story of the individual. Because what if we're working with someone who has several marginalized identities? Someone who is experiencing oppression in ways that we are not. And we're trying to provide a service from our experience that doesn't incorporate the experiences of our clients, right? So, while I am telling you, this is how you heal, it's impossible to know if that is how you're going to heal if I am not knowing, or if I am not in connection with those other parts of you that have experienced oppression.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're not always going to have clients come to us who have our exact lived experience. In fact, we're rarely going to,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? As a neurodiverse person, I work with I work with a lot of neurodiverse folks, but
Hmm.
also a lot of folks who don't hold that identity.
Hmm.
And if I'm sitting in myself with a more decolonialized approach, instead of like what you were saying, just that intellectualizing, I've learned these things about this person with this identity.
Hmm.
How might I orient towards them from a decolonialized approach?
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. I think that being humble is very important.
Mm,
I think that remembering that we're not the experts in the room is very important. And I think that also remembering that whatever training we took, whatever certification we have, is providing us with intellectual knowledge only, but not with lived experience, is very important, right? So on the one hand, I am holding my experience. Yes, I know about your culture, but I know it intellectually, or I know about your community, but I know it intellectually. I don't have the lived experience. Yes, I may be feeling a little bit anxious about being in connection with you. Yes, I am an imperfect therapist and healer. I don't know all the things. However, I want to provide the best service that I can provide to you. And there may be a little of perfectionism and white supremacy in there, but so I need to hold all of my parts as well and acknowledge everything that is happening for me. Do my own work if I need to do that. And at the same time, come to you with a lot of humility, with this idea of I am not the expert in the room. I am a facilitator, and what I want for you is to rediscover what's your inner knowledge.
mm,
And I want to be a witness to your experiences. And depending on what's your style, you may say something like, I may put my foot in my mouth every now and then, right? So to me, the part of the informed consent is I am not going to get it right all the time. I am going
yes.
to do my best as a healer, as a therapist. And sometimes I may make a mess. It's not going to be on purpose, but I want you to know that I may make a mess. And I am going to bring my best repair
Mm,
skills, if you want to call them skills, to the table because I am really invested in this therapeutic, this healing relationship with you. That's the best that I can offer to anyone if we don't have the same identities, or if in particular, if I am the one with the privileged identities.
mhm,
Because then I am allowing that person to decide if they want to be in relationship with me, or if they want to have ask for this service of me, right? And I think that it's very important to have that, if you want to call it informed consent or whatever, agreement container, to review that agreement, that container every now and then, right? Like, how
mm,
is this feeling for you? Is this still working? Is this relationship working? Is there something else? And we know this, right, from grad school, from our certification programs. Is there anything else that you're not having in this container? Is there anything more that you would like to have?
mhm.
um and I think that our clients know when we do it because we want to help them, um because we want to help them heal. So I think, again, a lot of transparency, a lot of humility, a lot of remembering that we're not the experts is
Yes.
very important. It's very important to bring that to therapeutic and healing relationships.
Yeah. And such a big, important part that the client actually has all of the wisdom and medicine and healing capabilities inside of them. It's not us who is healing them.
Exactly, exactly, right? Independently of the service that we're providing, it's so important to get our clients' feedback.
Yeah.
If I am providing a therapeutic service or any other service, like I want to know what you want. If I am going to work with you on EMDR for trauma, like I want to know more about your experience so that I can provide the service in the best way possible, stopping whenever I need to stop or pushing you a little bit whenever you feel like so I need to know what you want. I want to tap into your inner wisdom. If I
Mhm.
am providing any other service, uh, uh, I don't know, any other service that I can think of, photograph. Like I want to know what you want, and I want you to tell me how you feel comfortable and how you don't feel comfortable. I don't want to take pictures of you in displaying something that you are not.
Hmm.
I want for who you are to really show in these pictures, right? So I want to be in this relationship with you to really know what you want and trust your inner wisdom. So again, whether we're talking about therapy or healing or any other sort of relationship, I think it's very important to really tap into our clients' inner wisdom.
Mhm.
um, and again, I think it's very healing for everyone, because we have forgotten, I want to say most of us have forgotten that we were born with this inner wisdom. um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. It's so much about collaboration. And
Yes.
I'm hearing and feeling a sense of like just deep care, down like
Completely.
embodied deep care instead of this is how I perform care.
Exactly.
It's like I'm human and I'm here and I'm available for connection and relationship. And I don't know where we're going just as much as you don't know where we're going, but we're going to do it together in a caring way.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know if it's because I'm neurodivergent, but that to me sounds very exciting, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know where we're going, but we're doing this together. I think that we learn so many scripts in grad school or in our certification programs, and I am not trying to be black and white, because to me that's also very, very white supremacy culture. The black and white, this is good, this is bad, you're wrong, I'm right. What I am trying to bring up is more nuance to our experience. So maybe we learn amazing things in grad school and in our certification programs. Yet that is just one of the many things that we can bring to the relationship, to the service, to the treatment that we're providing, right?
Mhm.
um, that is just one of the many things. And the other very important thing is a relationship and the deep care that you're talking about. I really want this for you. I really want you to heal from your trauma. This is how I'm going to help you. I really want for you to be able to embrace your voice, and this is how I'm going to help you. I really want for you to have these amazing pictures or whatever other service I offer, right?
Yeah.
And I want us to talk about how we can get there.
We.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. You talk a lot about decolonializing ourselves before we can decolonialize our practice, our therapy practice, healing practice. And for me, something that comes up a lot is like perfectionism. Like, oh, I don't really want your feedback, even though, and so like working deeply with that part of me that can sit in discomfort, that actually genuinely wants to know my impact on another person. And I wonder how you might guide people through kind of decolonializing within first
Mhm.
before bringing that into their work.
Yeah, completely. The way that I see it, there are three stages to the process of decolonizing ourselves, our practices, the services that we provide. And I think that that begins with us. So the way that I see it is we have to go inwards so that then we can go outwards. And to me, going inwards means remembering what have I learned and how I feel about the things that I have learned, right? Remembering how is it that I take feedback. So if you are a therapist or a service provider, chances are you have learned to, ask for feedback. But the feedback is usually very intellectual. Did this work for you on a scale from 0 to 10? How was today's session, et cetera, et cetera. And when we are doing that very intellectual feedback, um, we are feeling very protected from, any other feelings. From our perfectionism is very protected, is very shielded. Because if I were to listen from a client, I didn't like what you said about me, or, actually, you microaggressed me last session. That would make me feel like I am not an efficient therapist.
Mm.
And what does that mean about my identity as a therapist or as a healer when a client tells me that I did something wrong? Like, that doesn't feel good. Yet, that is something that I need to know, right? If I inadvertently harmed a client or hurt a client, or I said something that was inappropriate, or I did something wrong, I need to know that, and I need to work through any uncomfortable feelings I may have about that. Um, and that's what we teach clients most of the times, and we practice with clients, right? How can you sit with the discomfort? So, to me, a very important thing is, how are we really sitting with our own discomfort in an embodied way, not in an intellectual way? Because from the intellectual place, I can say, well, yeah, I need to read more. I need to check in with my own therapist. I need to seek supervision for this. But from an embodied way is, where is this not feeling right? Right? Where in my body this is feeling awful or uncomfortable? And what is the feeling underneath? Is it a feeling of, I don't know, insecurity? Is it grief? Is it what am I feeling? Right? Not just in my body, but as a feeling. What else am I feeling? And to remember that all our sensations and all our feelings are more data and more information as to how to continue acting in the future. If I
Mm.
realize that what I am feeling is grief, maybe there is something that I need to grieve, to mourn about my education. If what I'm feeling is insecurity, maybe there's more knowledge or experiences that I need to gather to stop feeling that insecurity. But to me, it's like, how can I get in touch with what I am feeling deep inside as a practitioner, as a service provider? That to me is the work of going inwards before going outwards. And the other part of going inwards is to always remember that this work is cyclical. If I am going to work on decolonizing my practice and decolonizing myself, this is not going from point A to B and then I'm done with this work. This means that today I am working on my perfectionism, and maybe tomorrow as well, and maybe for the rest of my life, depending on where I'm at with perfectionism. But maybe I also need to work on what I learned is professionalism. And I also need to work on what I think activism may look like. Uh, you know, Again, it's about knowing that this work is cyclical, and that in this work I need to incorporate rest,
Mm.
because it's only through resting that I can recharge my batteries to continue doing this work. So
Yeah.
that is to me the first part, the going inwards, of decolonizing my practice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And being willing to challenge that status quo, especially as a therapist, which does not tell us to rest. It tells us to compete with each other. How many clients did you see this week? How many can you hold at a time? And it's like, that's not something I need to participate in. That's not here for my well-being, and it's not here for the collective well-being.
exactly, exactly. I mean, I think that the other part of, I'm so glad that you mentioned this, because to me the other part of going inwards is also holding and acknowledging the nuance of my identities and the nuance of my needs, right? Because if I happen to be the sole provider of my household, maybe I do need to see 10 clients a day. Oh my gosh, that sounds awful, but 10 clients a day, 4 days a week because I need to pay the bills.
Mm.
Maybe I need to stop shaming myself because in this moment, there's just no other way,
Yeah.
right? Because I need to pay the bills. Because to me, it's very important to be aware of my bandwidth, right? How much money, how much energy, how much time I have at any given time. So maybe for some people, rest will look different, seeing clients will look different. Um, the number of clients that I see in a given day will look different than for other clinicians. So to me, there's also this idea of nuance, right?
Yeah.
Like rest is going to look different for me than for others. Setting boundaries is going to look different. So that is also part of the nuance of going inwards as well.
Yeah. One thing I really love is the concept that I can actually be resting when I'm here with you or here with my clients. And part of, I think, decolonialization is that we don't have to be working so dang hard all of the time in that intellectual way. And what you're saying every time you're talking, I'm like, like, oh, if I could actually tend to that, which is underneath the surface, that feels restful because there's space to sit here within myself. I'm not avoiding myself. I'm not exhausting myself, not feeling my feelings. When I'm actually connected to you, I can rest. We're co regulating. We're here. We're available in a different way. I'm not working hard to impress you or power trip you or unconsciously or consciously.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Even if I do need to see that many clients in a day, I could actually find a way to rest within that.
Completely, right? So that's the nuance. And what on the surface may seem as counterintuitive, it's actually part of incorporating this decolonial lens to the things that I am doing, right? Because, like
Yes.
you're saying, what if I go through, maybe I only see 3 clients today, but I am super masking while I see those clients. Not because I don't want to embrace a part of me, but because that's all I learn, right? And I don't know that I am masking, and I am trying to be the best professional and come at you with all this amazing professional language and from only my intellectual parts, and trying to pay attention to everything that you say so that I can offer my best product, my best treatment. But if by doing that, I may not be in connection with me, and I may not be in actual connection with other parts of you. And how much more restful, like you're saying, if I just manage to relax and model this for you, that
Mhm.
all our parts are welcome, and that
Mhm.
we can be in this transactional service in a different way, in a way that is not just about me providing a service and you giving me money for it, but it's also about, I want you to do better. And there are ways in which I can support you. Not all of them, because I'm not perfect, but I can support you in some ways. So this is not just a transactional relationship, but it's a relationship of, I believe that if we support each other in this way, we are creating better community.
Mm.
And that really gives me more space when I am with my clients, right? I may be tired at the end of the day, but maybe less tired than if I am just acting from this capitalist, unhealthy professionalism point of view.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Mm.
even within work, there can be some rest of our parts and our bodies as well.
Mm. I just took such a big exhale. Yeah. It gets to
Yeah,
be this way too.
exactly. Exactly.
Is there anything else that feels really alive in this moment that wants to be shared here before we bring this to a close?
I will say something meta, because what feels more alive to me is, oh my god, my brain just want to brings up all of the things. uh my neurodivergent brain wants to um remember and bring up so many things that we may have not time for. Um, so yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I'm just reflecting on maybe how, again, white supremacy can sneak in, and oppression can sneak in all of the conversations. Like in this moment, I am feeling like, what else am I forgetting? What else is it important for me to tell Shelby that I shouldn't forget? And it's okay if there's nothing else that feels important. Like everything is important, but it's okay if that's left for another conversation and
Yeah.
another time. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is so much space for another conversation. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, oh, we can have another one.
It's everything is cyclical, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm with you. It feels like we're just touching the surface of something that has infinite amounts of depth. And this is a lifelong practice and
Hmm.
learning. And
Hmm.
so there's so much we covered, yet so little. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I would love for you to tell us how people can find you, how they might work with you, how they might learn with you, what they'll find when they get there.
Yes, yes, yes. So the best way to find me is to subscribe to my newsletter, which is decolonizeyourpractice.com/newsletter. You can also go to my site, which is www.seventhselfconsulting.com. And you can follow me on Instagram, and my handle is decolonize your practice. And I am pretty sure that if you Google my name, you will also find a way to connect with me. But the newsletter is the best way, because that's where I announce, if I am offering a class or a program or any other opportunity to be in connection, with people.
And we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can
Yeah,
just tap or click.
sounds good.
Yeah. And you support both therapists and anyone who identifies as a healer. Is that right?
I do. I do. Therapists, healers, coaches, and service providers. Anyone who's providing a service and who wants to provide a service, not from an intellectual point of view, but is really interested in embodying what they are doing because they are really focused on creating more community. For anyone who has anti-oppressive values, social justice values, it doesn't matter if you feel like, you are um, just a baby doing this, if you feel like you are just a beginner, it doesn't matter. We are all in some place of in our journeys learning what anti-oppression is. So whether you feel like a beginner or an expert, I am here to support you in finding the ways in which you can make your practice more affirming and more inclusive to people who have marginalized identities.
Mm, yes. Yes. Everyone, please go find Silvana. There's so much to learn. There's so much content that you offer, workshops, classes, everything. Now, I want you to be my therapist now. So, yeah, thank you so much for giving of your time and your heart in this way today. And I'm really looking forward to the next time we get to meet.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk, to connect with you, and to connect with your audience. Um, and yeah, thank you so much.
Mm.